I am back with Will Forrest, who just read a sample from An Inconvenient Earl. And I have just been looking at my notes trying to figure out which direction I want to go. My first question is, you write so many different types of romances. If anyone goes to your website, they'll see that you write paranormal, you write like 20th century, you write Victorian, you write all sorts of romances. And in this scene, we're getting so many themes about like what does a person deserve, dreams versus reality. I'm curious, what about this story told you to write it as a historical romance?
It was more the idea of like, if I wanted to write a Regency, what would it be like? And like, what do I like about the Regency era stories that are written from them? I'm not so much into like ballroom drama. Like I'm not really into like, gossip in court and that kind of social drama. I like a little bit more kind of adventure in my stories. So like the kidnapping the heir is such a trope in Regency, like either the girl or the man gets, whisked away and has to kind of cope with being out of their normal milieu. Because yeah, that's just what more interests me more about that kind of era is the kind of adventures that you could have in it.
So, what made you say, oh, I want to write a Regency book? Were you reading a lot of Regencies? Has it always been on your bucket list?
I mean, I don't really know if there is any particular like, oh, I have to like it was ticking the box. There was sort of a bit of a trend going on for a bit where like a lot of big historical romance writers were doing queer Regency stuff, like Alexis Hall put out a few, KJ Charles, and I'm just like, okay, well now this is a sandbox that I can play in now. Most of the things I'd written before that were Victorian era, but within that I'd written like a Regency's short story
Hmm.
and kind of had fun with the wording and the pacing. And like it is, I try and write in a very historical idiom and a very historical writer's voice. So I just wanted to kind of play around in that
Yeah. Do you feel like
context.
there's something that you get from writing Regency that's different from even Victorian, which is kind of like a, they're kind of, we kind of group them
Yeah.
all together a lot.
Well, no, I mean, I think Regency is interesting. I mean, it's almost more coherent with like our current times because it was a very politically chaotic time. There's revolutions happening all over the place. Social rules were being shattered. Kings were losing their heads. It is a very kind of like dynamic time. And like, not to say that there were not political events that occurred in the Victorian and other periods, but it's just a very, it's an interesting period for everyone to write about because it has so much going on in it. And the conflicts can be quite, you know, live or die kind of situations.
Yeah, and there's such a wealth difference too that I think we
Yeah.
see resonating.
And I really leaned into that because the one character in this book, Harry, is, I mean, he came up from poverty. He's never really had, he had like a taste of middle class life, but that was sort of stripped away from him. And he's been living by his wits as a thief for since he was like a teenager, since he was about 15. And so for him to have even had a relationship with Ralph, the Earl, or the Earl to be, that was itself a kind of conflicting relationship to be stepping so far out of both of their comfort zones. Like they're not supposed to know each other in any social context whatsoever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting.